Thank you so much, Carolyn. And I feel like that was Bruce's little tagline, wasn't it? The team are saying, Nicola, you need to come up with one of your own, but I'm happy to go with that one. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to come along and speak with you all today. As Carolyn said, I've been in post since August in the role as Children and Young People's Commissioner for Scotland. This role, campaigned for by many of you in this room, is to promote and protect the rights of children in Scotland. And right now is a very special time for children and young people's rights in Scotland. The incorporation of the UNCRC into Scots law will bring real changes. The culture change that has been taking place for decades in Scotland will continue to have momentum and validation. Children's rights must be placed first when considering law, policies and practice in Scotland. It unlocks new powers to hold duty bearers accountable and gives my office strategic litigation powers to bring legal cases where this is not happening. This is a time for hope and ambition when we think of the progress that has already been made to prioritise children's rights in Scotland. There is much to be proud of. The commitment to whole system reform through the promise. The very soon to be passed Care and Justice Bill, expanding the hearing system to include older children in conflict with the law and removing children from prisons. The opportunity, and I stress the opportunity, for education reform, supported by government commission reviews, acknowledging the extensive challenges within the current system. This is also a time of uncertainty and instability, both domestically and globally. You know this. The cost of living crisis, impact on budgets, the enduring impact of the pandemic, future elections, and the political choices that those who hold power make, the impacts on children, young people, and citizens. You know all of this, you feel it, and the children, young people, and families you work with feel it. For those of you who are close to local authority leaders or government colleagues, you might see the struggle that they are feeling to balance the policy ambitions with the investment necessary to realise it. When things are complex and difficult, we can see this playing out in different ways. We can see narratives coming in the media, skewing the focus of children and young people. Has anybody been watching the discussion about violence and aggression within our education settings? We can see children's voices getting squeezed out of the education reform conversations. So fantastic pieces of work that really gathered professionals and children together to make recommendations. And where are our children's voices now? The budget cuts that you will be facing and the impact that those are having on children and young people. So it's a time of great opportunity and it's a time for us to be cautious. But children's rights must be placed first when considering law, policy and practice. So how do we navigate together the huge opportunity and the unique complexities and challenges we will face over the coming years? What do children and young people in Scotland need most from us next? When I started in post in August, my office had to create a refreshed strategic plan. So I used this opportunity to ensure that we could ask ourselves this question. We set out to listen to as many children as possible, to understand what their biggest challenges and issues are now and what they foresee them being into the future. We started with what they'd already told us. We reviewed over 130 consultations that have taken place with children in Scotland over the past 5 years. And from that, we drew out their top 5 themes: education, poverty, mental health, discrimination and climate change. And the golden thread running through all of this was decision making. Children are telling us now in Scotland, ask us, but most importantly, act on what we say. We created a resource pack for groups to invite children and young people to respond to 6 questions about this. to check in with them and ask them, are these still the correct themes for now? And what is emerging into the future? What are we missing? Thank you for those of you that supported children and young people to respond to this. We had responses which represented around 5,000 children and young people across Scotland. We also went out and about across Scotland to work with targeted groups of young people. In schools, groups of children who were either underrepresented in the consultation or that we were aware of would not be as able to engage with a digital consultation. And we talked with, and most importantly, we listened to 300 children and young people this way. There were many consistent messages about what needs to change and what needs to be better. There were many consistent messages that whilst we are embedding children's rights into our laws and into our policy, we still have much to do to enable all children to enjoy all of their rights in practice. The top themes that children talked about were education, poverty and mental health from these. And I wanted to share with you some of the ways in which they are describing the challenges they are facing. These are just a few quotes, but I wanted to pull out a couple. I'm extremely terrified to ask to go to the toilet. In case I'm asked if I have a toilet pass and if I don't, so I just don't go to the toilet. Sometimes if you've got something in your hand to help you to listen, to concentrate, you get told to put it down. And if you don't do it, the teacher raises their voices and shouts and tells you to put it down. But sometimes you need it to help you. Uncomfortable truths, but our children are so articulate at telling us what's actually happening. When we talked about poverty, children were very clear. I think poverty should be banned. So do I. They are very passionate. One young person said to me, it sometimes makes me want to cry. It makes me feel so sad. This is how deeply our children and young people are thinking about these issues and can talk openly with us about these issues. When we talked about mental health, young people were pretty blunt. Young people are failed massively. If you don't help us now, we can't become productive adults. They also told us what were the other issues that they were thinking about and worrying about at the moment. And they covered a huge range of things, from vaping, smoking, things that you might not be surprised about. But they were also talking about war. And actually some young people, some teenagers, talking about being worried about conscription. I don't remember my friends talking about that when I was growing up. So it was very telling, and we learned a lot. And children and young people are so smart at seeing the flaws in our systems, often better than those who are working within or for them. They can articulate these in ways that are so powerful and so clear. This doesn't mean there aren't great things happening in each of those places. There are many great things happening, but it gives us a call to action that there is much more to do. We also asked children and young people what they valued and what they felt was most important from their commissioner. So this slide was what children and young people were telling me I needed to be like and what I should do. And there's a couple on this that I thought I would draw your attention to that I really like. This one about persistence. She can't just give up. That for me is a calling for me, but really for all of us as well. As part of this consultation, we also talked to adults. So children were our focus. It is the Children and Young People's Commissioner role. But we also wanted to talk to people who worked within the sector and some parents of babies and parents of some children with disabilities. And this is a slide, you can't see the whole thing, but this was a visual minute of the conversations that pulled out some of the key themes of what people who worked in the sector and parents were asking of us. And again, there's lots of points in this, but a couple that I wanted to pull out was, can you see that picture of the bucket on the right-hand side? And it says, empty the too hard to do bucket. I love that one, because sometimes these complex issues, these challenges, the systemic challenges within some of the systems that have been created for a really long time can feel really, really hard. But there was a clear message that we have to think about that differently. And I also love this comment here that talks about our strategic litigation tools that is, again, we're getting with the UNCRC implementation. And that quote, "use your teeth." I really like that, but I think it's a message for all of us because the UNCRC gives us all more teeth. Children's rights have to be placed first. So, what will I do about this? And how might we work together to improve the lives of children in Scotland and grasp this unique moment in time to allow us to continue to progress? Here is my response. For those who don't know the detail of the Commissioner's role, my duties are set out in law and require me to promote awareness and understanding of children's rights, to involve children and young people in the office's work, make sure that laws, policies and practice affecting children and young people's lives are fair and respect their rights, share examples of where things are working well, and, where appropriate, use our powers of investigation and litigation when we think we can make a bigger change. As Commissioner, I have the unique benefit of a role that is truly independent with unique powers to protect through access to justice routes. So the commitment that I'm making to children and young people is to use that independence, to work with them to ensure that I continue to be informed by their truth, to highlight the thread from legal to policy and to implementation. But if we want children's rights to be embedded at scale for all children in Scotland, it will continue to take all of us. So my goal is to be as supportive, as helpfully challenging, and to collaborate where I and my office can add value with your work to maximise impact. So here to finish are just a few reflections from me on what we could do together to weather the storm and to maximise opportunity in the coming years. Firstly, continue to believe that we can do better. We all need to empty the too hard bucket, and often within the third sector, you are the shining hope. You can see alternative ways to doing things, you can demonstrate it, and you demonstrate great ways to work together. Be absolutely persistent for change. Do not give up. Connect children's voices to decision makers. Children are saying, listen to us, but act on it. So you can find ways to do that and actually connect, make decisions based on what children and young people are telling us and demonstrate that. Stay united. The next few years are going to be challenging. Funding is hard. There are many things that will test us. But the more that we can stay united on a shared purpose to improve and put children's rights at the front of practice, as well as law and policy, the better. And as I mentioned, demonstrate how to implement. And finally, call it out. When you see children's rights not being implemented, when you see ways of working that are not true, call it out and document it. And the more we can do that, the more we can be honest in our systems and as a country as to how far we've come and how far we still have to go. Childhood is a time where additional rights apply. The UNCRC is the most rapidly and widely ratified international human rights treaty in history. It changed the way children are viewed and treated in international legal terms. It proclaims children's status as human beings with a distinct set of rights, not just as passive objects of care and charity. The rights contained in the 54 articles of the UNCRC are universal, interdependent and interrelated. The articles cover all aspects of a child's life and explain how those in power must work together to make sure all children and young people can enjoy all of their rights. Importantly, it requires children's views to be part of all decision making and that those decisions should be made in children's best interests. And it requires the state to use all available resources to the maximum extent possible to ensure rights are fulfilled. This will be the law in Scotland. You did this. Alongside children and young people in Scotland, you campaigned and made this a reality for all children in Scotland. And now it's up to us to ensure that it is realised for every single child in Scotland. It's time to show our teeth. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've had a good day.